Today we're going to talk about a sport, and not any sport, because we're going to talk about curling, and more specifically about how this lesser-known sport gets interest in the USA every 4 years during the Olympic month. First, let's recap what curling is. So, curling is a team sport in which a player launches a stone on a sheet of ice toward a circle-shaped target called the house. The stone used is a heavy polished granite stone, and is sometimes also referred as rock. Each team has 4 players and 8 stones, and each player throws 2 of these stones. The goal is to have the highest score at the end of the game. You score points for each stone on the target, and you get more points if the stone is closer to its center. The game is composed of 8 to 10 ends, which are basically rounds, and each end ends when every team has thrown all of their stones. This sport is quite technical, as there are many ways to launch your stone. Its path is also influenced by 2 sweepers, teammates with brooms who accompany the stone by sweeping the ice in front of the stone to reduce friction. This need for strategy gave curling its nickname of chess on ice. The sport has been officially added as a medal sport in the 1998 Nagano Winter Olympics held in Japan, and has stayed as such. Canada has since dominated the sport with many gold medals in men, women, and mixed categories. But what interests us today is how this sport gains a lot of interest in the USA every 4 years during the Olympic month, as evidenced by this graph found on 538.com based on Google Trends statistics, which represent the number of Google searches for a specific term, in this case, sport names. These graphs represent on a scale from 0 to 100 how many Google searches were made during a select month for a specific sport, 100 being the peak of searches attained for a sport, in this case curling, in February 2010. Let's examine one of these graphs in details. Let's take figure skating, for instance. We can see that every year, in winter, the searches for figure skating increase a little before decreasing again when the season ends. However, there is an exception every 4 years during the Olympics. Instead of simply increasing, searches skyrocket to as much as around 20 times the usual number of searches in winter. While the peaks of searches for figure skating are quite high, sometimes even close to the number of searches for curling, that is not the case for every sport, as shown by the searches for ski jumping, which seems to remain pretty unpopular in searches compared to other sports, such as curling. The last graph illustrates a reason for the searches for a specific sport to peak. This being an unfortunate event happening during the Olympics, such as the tragic death of a Georgian luger during the 2010 Vancouver Games. Of all winter sports, curling is the one that gains in average the most interest during the Olympics. This can possibly be explained by this sport being a bit unusual, and its rules not being obvious to someone who never heard of it, compared to other more spectacular sports, like ski jumping or figure skating. This concludes this short presentation on how some sports can gain interest in the American population during a worldwide event. I hope it interested you, and wish you a good day. Thank you very much for listening.